Hello YouTube, a new video, a new day. This one is about a module that I'm working on and a track I've created. The track is a minimal affair. It's just some little sounds processed through this module with an accompanying kind of granular sounding thing, which I've used this for. This is the Arturia Micro Freak. The Micro Freak doesn't go through my Eurorack module, but the percussive elements do. The percussion's just some small sounds that I've recorded previously and done some videos on for making tracks. They're just the sounds of household objects recorded to cassette and then chopped up, edited. So that's basically what I'm putting through the module. I wanted to use this module to make a track because I need to test that the module does something useful in musical terms, so that it will work with other elements or whatever. Essentially, I've been kind of developing the module and putting any old sounds through it and not, in a sense, proven that it will work in the context of something I'd like to create as a kind of musical sound piece or whatever. So this is just to say there's a track released. Have a look down in the description below for the track on Bandcamp. It's somewhat minimal, not a finished piece of great work or anything in that sense, but it's something that I've put out there and that's okay as far as I'm concerned. I just want to send things out into the world, regardless perhaps of whether they are the absolute bee's knees. So the module itself, just to say a few words about it, is a buffer processing module, which means it records a piece of audio and then processes it. So what it does is it receives triggers, which should be intended to be in time with your musical output. So if you're driving a sequencer with a trigger module, you would then send that trigger also to this module. Then the module captures audio from it according to a number of triggers it receives. I've set it to 16 for this, so that it's a very obvious kind of choice. And then it records those 16 steps and plays them back, but plays them back by going through the buffer in irregular ways compared to what it received in the first place. So one of the things is in line with the stutter type effect. It essentially loops within the segments it plays, and that can be varied in speed. It will also, if you wish, move each little loop within the segment along a bit, which is something like granular processing, in that it can then scan through the file at a different rate. It has a pitch setting, the ability to rearrange the incoming audio into some different order, 16 different segments that are then rearranged into a new order, those types of bits of processing. So anyway, there's a track, as I say, down below. It's nothing exceptional, but it might kind of work in the context of some group of tracks that are interesting somehow in their musical elements, or their choices of how to put something together. This is entirely done with the Eurorack. I did intend to use the computer, but I ran into all sorts of setbacks in terms of not having a very good MIDI to CV arrangement. I was trying to use the Behringer TB303 clone as my MIDI to CV converter, and I discovered, or I think I've discovered, that it only outputs CV up to as many octaves as the actual bass machine will go. So I don't think it outputs CV up to the full 5 volts that I would need. Or it may actually be that the disting, which I'm using to get sample playback from, responds to a different range to what the TD3 is outputting. I don't know. Either way, I've ended up using Behringer Chaos, the Mutable Instruments Marvels clone, as my trigger, driver and CV sequencer, which means I don't have exactly control over what I'm doing, but it gets some kind of result out there. And then I've been, as I say, triggering the Disting Mark III in a sample playback mode with selected sample and sending that through the module. So just a quick example of what's coming out of the disting prior to processing would be something like this. I'll just play back something. So just before I play it back, I'll say this is only being picked up by the phone's audio coming out of by the phone's internal mic coming out of a speaker. So there we are, and then that has another output I can engage, which is coming out via the buffer processing. I think you can hear that there are repeats happening there. Also, I'll just demonstrate the pitch shifting. And also this audio can get rearranged into a different order. There's nothing too meaningful about this audio, so it's hard to tell that this is rearranged compared with the input. And the other thing to say is that we can engage another mode, or a less restricted mode, because I quite like sometimes the effect of the looping within the segment being extremely fast, so that it's more like an audio effect than a repeating drum roll type effect. But it's more like a kind of rough granular effect, but there's more to do with that, and I may work on that as I go. But here's the other mode, or some example of it. I think you can hear that going into audio type rates at times when it kicks in. So there we are, a very rough and basic demo. Have a look at the track down below, and if you're interested, tune in to see where this goes, what happens with the module. As I say, it's a work in progress. It's a quite significant project for me, so I'm hoping to maybe expand on the functionality, certainly improve on it, and yes, there's more to come with that anyway. So that's the video. Thanks if you watched. Cheerio.